Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the stars. He had seen many beautiful nights in space, but tonight was different. Tonight, the stars were moving. Hundreds of alien ships dropped out of hyperspace around Earth. They were sleek and dangerous, like metal sharks swimming through the darkness. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals, and energy weapons glowed along their sides like angry eyes. "Sir, we have incoming transmission," said Lieutenant Parker, his voice tight with worry. Jake nodded. He had been expecting this day for a long time, though he hoped it would never come. "Put it on the main screen." The face that appeared was not human. It had blue-gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. This was Kethvar, commander of the Dominion fleet. Jake had seen pictures of Zephyrians before, but never one this close, and never one this angry. "Humans of Earth." Kethvar's voice was like grinding metal. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Dominion. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You will surrender your resources, your technology, and your independence. You have 48 hours to comply." Jake kept his face calm, but inside his heart was racing. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but training and reality were very different things. "On what authority do you make this demand?" Kethvar's 4 eyes seemed to glow brighter. "The authority of 12 advanced civilizations united under the Dominion banner. We have conquered 47 worlds. Earth will be the 48th, and if we refuse, then your cities will burn from orbit. Your species will serve us as slaves, if any survive at all." The alien commander leaned forward. "Choose wisely, human. Surrender now, and your people will live as our subjects. Resist, and they will die as our enemies." The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Around him, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They all knew this day might come, but knowing and experiencing were very different things. "Get me Commander Hayes," Jake said quietly. Lisa Hayes appeared on the screen within minutes. She was Earth's chief diplomatic officer, a woman who had spent her life trying to prevent exactly this situation. Her usually calm face showed the strain of the moment. "You saw the transmission?" Jake asked. "The whole planet saw it. They broadcast it on every channel, every frequency. They want everyone to know what's coming." Lisa rubbed her temples. "Jake, our military can't fight this. We have maybe 200 ships. They have over 800. I know. But maybe we don't need to fight them the way they expect." Before Lisa could ask what he meant, another call came through. This one was from Captain Ryan Bell, head of the Earth Engineering Corps. Ryan was a quiet man who usually stayed behind the scenes, fixing things that broke and improving things that worked. "Admiral Morrison, Director Clark wants to see you immediately." "Both of you," Ryan said. "It's about the Dominion situation." Jake frowned. Ben Clark was head of something called the Infrastructure Division, a department so secret that most government officials didn't even know it existed. "Where?" "Sublevel 7, Sector Delta. Take the maintenance elevator." 20 minutes later, Jake and Lisa found themselves in a room they never knew existed. It was buried deep beneath the main government complex, accessible only through a maintenance shaft that looked like it led to the building's heating system. The room was filled with displays showing star maps, shipping routes, and technical schematics that Jake didn't recognize. Dozens of people worked at computer stations, monitoring systems that seemed to span the entire galaxy. Director Ben Clark was a tall, thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like someone who carried the weight of many secrets. When he saw Jake and Lisa, he gestured for them to sit at a conference table in the center of the room. "What you're about to learn cannot leave this room," Ben said without introduction. "Not until we decide what to do about our Dominion problem." "What is this place?" Lisa asked, looking around at all the activity. This is where humanity really runs its operations, not the military, not the government offices upstairs. Here, Ben activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. For the past 200 years, humans have been working throughout known space. Not as conquerors or diplomats, but as mechanics, engineers, and maintenance workers. Jake stared at the display. It showed thousands of locations marked with human symbols. Space stations, shipyards, communication hubs, power plants. I don't understand. The aliens think they run the galaxy, Ben continued. They have the governments, the armies, the fancy titles. But who do you think keeps their ships running? Who maintains their space stations? Who repairs their computers when they break? Dr. Amy Foster entered the room, carrying a data pad. She was Earth's leading expert on quantum physics, though Jake was surprised to see her here. Sorry, I'm late. I was analyzing the Dominion fleet's technical specifications. Amy has been studying alien technology for 30 years, Ben explained. Tell them what you found. Amy set down her datapad and looked directly at Jake. Admiral, every major system in that Dominion fleet was either built by humans or maintained by humans at some point in the last decade. Their hyperspace drives, their weapon systems, their life support, their navigation computers. All of it. That's impossible, Lisa said. We've never had contact with the Dominion before today. No direct contact, Amy agreed. But think about it. Who gets called when something breaks in space? Who do aliens hire when they need technical work done? Humans. We're cheap, we're reliable, and we don't ask questions about politics. Ben stood up and walked to the display. For 2 centuries, we've been the galaxy's maintenance crew. Every alien civilization depends on human engineers to keep their technology working. They think we're primitive, so they give us all the jobs they consider beneath them. And we've been very good at those jobs, Amy added, with a slight smile. Perhaps too good. Jake was beginning to understand, and the realization made him feel cold. You're saying we've had access to their most critical systems all along. Not just access, Ben said. Control. When you spend decades maintaining something, you learn how to make it work better. You also learn how to make it stop working entirely. The room fell silent, except for the quiet humming of computers and the distant sound of people working. Jake looked around at the busy technicians and realized that this secret organization probably employed more people than Earth's entire military. What are you suggesting? Lisa asked quietly. Amy picked up her datapad again. The Dominion wants to control Earth through force. They don't realize that we already control them through competence. Every ship in their fleet, every station they call home, every system they depend on to survive, it all needs human expertise to function. They think they're conquering us, Ben said. But we've already conquered them. They just don't know it. Yet, Jake stood up and walked to the star map. The weight of what he was learning felt heavier than gravity itself. Humanity wasn't the primitive species about to be enslaved. They were the hidden masters of galactic civilization. What do you need from me? He asked. Ben smiled for the first time since Jake had met him. Permission to show the Dominion what happens when the mechanics go on strike. Outside, the alien fleet continued to orbit Earth, waiting for humanity's surrender. They had no idea that their ultimatum had just awakened something far more dangerous than any military force. They had threatened the species that kept the galaxy running, and humanity was about to remind everyone exactly who was really in charge. 2 hours after the meeting with Director Clark, Jake Morrison found himself in another secret room. This one filled with historical records and old photographs. Dr. Amy Forster was showing him how humanity's hidden influence had begun. It started with Captain Paul Grant, Amy explained, pointing to a photograph of a middle-aged man in an old-style spacesuit. 203 years ago, he was commanding the first human ship to make contact with alien civilization. The photograph showed Paul standing next to a group of tall, thin aliens with silver skin. They looked friendly enough, but Jake could see the way they stood, looking down at the human captain like he was a child. The aliens called themselves the Meridians, Amy continued. They were impressed that humans had developed space travel, but they made it clear that we were still very primitive compared to them. They offered to let us work for them as laborers and maintenance staff. Jake studied another photograph showing human workers in coveralls repairing what looked like a massive engine, and Captain Grant agreed to this. Paul was smarter than the aliens realized. He saw an opportunity. Instead of trying to fight civilizations that were thousands of years ahead of us, he decided to make ourselves useful to them. Amy led Jake to a wall covered with documents and reports. Paul sent messages back to Earth, explaining his plan. Instead of announcing ourselves as a new species, demanding respect, we would work quietly in the background. We would learn their technology, understand their weaknesses, and make ourselves indispensable. That seems like a dangerous strategy. It was brilliant, Amy said firmly. Look at what happened to other species that tried to announce themselves as equals. The Corvins tried to negotiate from a position of strength. The Dominion enslaved them within a decade. The Veshans tried to form military alliances. They're extinct now. Jake walked along the wall, reading reports from human engineers scattered across the galaxy. Each report told the same story. Aliens were happy to give humans the jobs they considered beneath them. Technical work, maintenance, system repairs, all the unglamorous tasks that kept civilization running. The aliens didn't see us as a threat, because we weren't asking for territory or political power, Amy explained. We just wanted to work, and work we did. One report caught Jake's attention. It was from Maria Santos, an engineer who had worked on something called the Nexus Station 50 years ago. According to her notes, the station was a critical communication hub that connected 12 different star systems. The aliens who ran the station had given her complete access to the central computer systems because they didn't want to handle routine maintenance themselves. Maria Santos, Jake read aloud. She was one of the first humans to realize what we were really doing. Maria figured out that the aliens' technology was not as advanced as they claimed. Most of their equipment was built by combining systems from other conquered species. They had powerful weapons and fast ships, but they didn't really understand how any of it worked. Amy pulled up a holographic display showing technical diagrams. When something broke, they had to call in specialists from the original builder species. But those specialists were often enslaved or scattered, so they started hiring humans because we were good at figuring out how things worked. And we were very good at it, Jake observed. Better than good. We were exceptional. Within 50 years, human engineers had a reputation throughout the galaxy for being able to fix anything. We became the go-to species for technical problems. Jake moved to another section of the wall that showed more recent reports. These came from engineers working in the present day, scattered across dozens of worlds and space stations. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner was stationed at Nexus Station, the same facility where Maria Santos had worked decades earlier. His latest report showed that 90% of the station's critical systems were now maintained exclusively by human technicians. Alex has been there for 7 years, Amy explained. The alien administrators trust him completely. They don't even question his recommendations anymore. When he says a system needs to be upgraded or replaced, they just approve it. Chief Engineer Carol Wright was working on Mars, but not the Mars in Earth's solar system. This was New Mars, a terraformed world in the Centauri system that served as a major manufacturing center for the galactic economy. Carol oversees the production facilities that build most of the galaxy's starship engines, Amy said. The aliens think she's just a supervisor, but she actually redesigned their entire manufacturing process 3 years ago. Production efficiency increased by 40%. Jake was beginning to understand the scope of what humanity had accomplished. How many humans are out there? Over 2 million, working in every major system in the galaxy. They're engineers, technicians, mechanics, computer specialists, system administrators. The aliens call them service workers, but they're actually the people who keep galactic civilization functioning. Amy led Jake to a central display that showed real-time data flowing in from across the galaxy. Status reports, maintenance schedules, system diagnostics, all of it monitored from this hidden room beneath Earth's government complex. "This is the real Earth Command Center," Amy said. "Not the military headquarters upstairs, not the government offices. This room coordinates the activities of human engineers throughout known space." Jake watched the data flow and realized he was seeing something unprecedented in galactic history. An entire species working in coordination across thousands of light years, maintaining systems that their supposed superiors couldn't understand. "Dr. Steve Parker leads our research division," Amy continued, pointing to another section of the room, where scientists were analyzing alien technology. "For 30 years, his team has been studying every piece of equipment that humans are asked to maintain." Jake walked over to Steve's work area and found himself looking at technical specifications for weapons, ships, computers, and systems he had never seen before. The level of detail was incredible. "We don't just fix their equipment," Steve explained, when he noticed Jake's interest. "We improve it. Every time we perform maintenance, we make small modifications. Better efficiency, improved reliability, enhanced performance." "Do the aliens notice these improvements?" Steve smiled. "They notice that their equipment works better, but they assume it's because we're such good maintenance workers. They don't realize that we're actually upgrading their technology beyond their own capabilities." Jake picked up a datapad showing specifications for something called a quantum communication array. The technical details were far beyond anything he had seen in Earth's military systems. "This is more advanced than our best technology," Jake observed. "It was," Steve agreed. "But after maintaining alien quantum communicators for 20 years, we learned how to build better ones. Most of our primitive Earth technology is actually based on improved versions of alien systems." Amy returned to Jake's side, carrying another datapad. "Steve's research has revealed something important about the Dominion fleet that's threatening Earth." "What's that?" "Every ship in their fleet uses quantum communication systems that were installed or upgraded by human technicians within the last 5 years. Their hyperspace navigation systems were calibrated by humans. Their weapon targeting computers run on software that was optimized by human programmers." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying we have access to their most critical systems?" "More than access," Amy said. "We designed most of the improvements they're currently using when Captain Paul Grant started this strategy 2 centuries ago. He probably never imagined that humans would become so integral to galactic technology that we could disable entire fleets with a few keystrokes." The reality of the situation was becoming clear to Jake. The Dominion fleet orbiting Earth was not an unstoppable force. It was a collection of ships that depended on human expertise to function. Their weapons, their communications, their navigation, their life support, all of it had been touched by human hands. How long would their systems continue to function without human maintenance? Jake asked. Steve considered the question carefully. For critical systems, like life support and basic navigation, maybe 6 months. For advanced systems like quantum communications and hyperspace travel, a few weeks at most. And if we actively sabotaged their systems? Amy and Steve exchanged glances. "Minutes," Steve said quietly. Jake walked back to the central display, watching data continue to flow in from human engineers across the galaxy. Each piece of information represented another system under human control, another piece of alien infrastructure that depended on human expertise. The Dominion thought they were conquering a primitive world, They had no idea they were threatening the species that kept their entire civilization running. It was like a king trying to enslave the farmers who grew his food while standing in the middle of his own fields. "How do we contact all these engineers?" Jake asked. Amy pointed to a communication console operated by a woman Jake didn't recognize. "That's Engineer Nicole Adams. She manages our quantum communication network from the Galactic Communications Hub. Every human engineer in known space can be reached through her systems, and they would all respond to orders from Earth." "They've been waiting for these orders their entire careers," Amy said. "Every human engineer out there knows that someday they might need to choose between their alien employers and their home world. That day has finally come." Jake looked around the room one more time, taking in the scope of humanity's hidden empire. They had built it not through conquest or diplomacy, but through competence and patience. They had made themselves so useful that their enemies couldn't survive without them. The Dominion fleet wanted to control Earth through superior firepower. They were about to learn that Earth already controlled them through superior engineering. "How quickly can we mobilize our people?" Jake asked. Amy checked her chronometer. "Nicole can have emergency protocols activated within the hour. Every human engineer in the galaxy will receive coded instructions simultaneously." "And what will those instructions say?" "Prepare to pull the plug on galactic civilization." The 24-hour deadline came and went, without a response from the Dominion fleet. Admiral Cathvar's silence was answer enough. From his position on Luna Station, Jake Morrison watched as the alien ships continued to drift helplessly around Earth, their crews apparently unable to accept that their technological superiority had been an illusion all along. Dr. Amy Foster's voice came through the communication system with a tone of regret. "Jake, we're receiving reports that Dominion forces throughout the galaxy are mobilizing against human-inhabited worlds. They're trying to capture our engineers to force them to restore their systems. Are our people safe? For now. But this confirms that the Dominion leadership has chosen the hard way. They still believe they can solve this problem through force." Jake activated his communication link to the global command network. "Ben, Amy, it's time for the final option." Director Clark's response was immediate. "Understood. Nicole Adams is standing by to send the activation codes to all human operatives. Are you certain about this?" Jake looked out at the massive alien fleet surrounding Earth, even disabled. Their ships represented the military might of 12 advanced civilizations. If the Dominion couldn't be reasoned with, then it was time to show them the true extent of human influence over galactic civilization. "Do it," Jake said. "Send the message. Pull the plug on everything." In the Galactic Communications Hub, a massive space station positioned at the junction of 3 major hyperspace routes, Engineer Nicole Adams received the coded message from Earth. She had been maintaining the communication systems for this station for 8 years, quietly upgrading and improving the equipment that connected dozens of star systems. Nicole's fingers moved across her control panel, sending encrypted signals through the quantum communication network that humans had built throughout the galaxy. The message was simple. "Protocol 7 is now active. Execute total system shutdown." The response was immediate and coordinated across thousands of light years. Human engineers who had spent their careers maintaining alien technology began systematically shutting down everything they could access. Kevin Stone, working deep in the Alpha Centauri system, began with the hyperspace beacons that guided ships safely between star systems. One by one, the navigation aids that allowed faster-than-light travel went dark. Ships that were currently in hyperspace would complete their journeys, but no new ships would be able to make the calculations needed for safe jumps. "Alpha Centauri hyperspace network is now offline," Kevin reported. "All incoming and outgoing traffic is suspended indefinitely." Chief Mechanic Helen Brooks was overseeing the shutdown of New Byzanti, the trade hub that processed 60% of the galaxy's commercial transactions. banking networks, shipping computers, automated trading systems, and currency exchange programs all went dark simultaneously. Galactic commerce is now at a complete standstill, Helen reported. No financial transactions can be processed, no shipping schedules can be calculated, and no trade agreements can be executed on the industrial world of Titan 7. Supervisor Tony Reed was watching as the planet's manufacturing capabilities simply vanished. Assembly lines that had been producing starships, weapons, and critical technology components for the entire Dominion military went silent. All production facilities are permanently offline, Tony announced. Equipment manufacturing has ceased throughout the sector. Current stockpiles will be depleted within weeks, and there is no capacity to produce replacements. The effects spread like a wave across the galaxy. On research stations, scientific computers crashed and lost decades of accumulated data. On military bases, weapons systems shut down and defensive shields failed. On civilian worlds, power grids collapsed and transportation networks stopped functioning. Commander Rachel Price, stationed at the strategic Kepler station, was overseeing the shutdown of the sector's entire defense network. All early warning systems are dark, she reported. Military communications are down, defensive satellites are offline, and fleet coordination is impossible. What the aliens were experiencing was not just equipment failure, it was the complete collapse of technological civilization. For generations, they had built their societies on the assumption that their machines would always work, that their computers would always function, and that their infrastructure would always be maintained. They had never considered what would happen if the people who maintained that infrastructure decided to stop working. On the Dominion flagship, HFY watched his civilization crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, each one describing another critical system failure, another essential service going offline, another foundation of modern life simply disappearing. "Sir, we're losing contact with our home worlds," his communications officer reported with panic in his voice. "The quantum communication network is shutting down sector by sector. We can't reach Dominion Command, we can't coordinate with other fleets, and we can't even contact our own supply bases." The science officer looked up from her station with an expression of disbelief. "Sir, I'm analyzing the failure patterns across multiple systems. This isn't random equipment breakdown. This is a coordinated shutdown operation involving thousands of separate installations across hundreds of worlds." "How many people would it take to accomplish something like this?" HFY asked. "Based on the scope and timing, I estimate at least 50,000 technical specialists working in perfect coordination, but that would require a communication network spanning the entire galaxy, and the ability to access critical systems on every major world and station." HFY was beginning to understand the true scope of what humanity had accomplished. While his species had been building armies and conquering worlds, humans had been quietly building something far more powerful. An invisible empire based on competence and reliability. "How long can our civilizations survive without these systems?" he asked. The science officer consulted her datapad, though many of her analysis tools were no longer functioning properly. "For advanced systems like hyperspace travel and quantum communications, we've already lost capability. For basic systems like power generation and life support, perhaps several months. For food production and essential services, maybe a year. And if the humans continue to actively sabotage our remaining systems, then we're looking at complete societal collapse within weeks." On Earth, President Sullivan was receiving similar reports about the effectiveness of humanity's coordinated action. Every major system in galactic civilization was either offline or operating at severely reduced capacity. The economic network that connected thousands of worlds had completely collapsed. Military forces throughout the galaxy were stranded without communication or supply lines. "How are our people doing?" she asked Dr. Foster. "All human engineers are reporting successful completion of their shutdown protocols." "So far, we haven't," Lost anyone? Though several are in dangerous situations on worlds where local authorities are trying to force them to restore services. And the aliens' response? Panic, mostly. Some worlds are declaring martial law. Others are attempting to negotiate directly with our local engineers. A few are trying to develop their own technical capabilities, but that will take years, even if they succeed. Amy brought up a display showing the current status of galactic civilization. Nearly every indicator was in the red zone: communication networks down, transportation systems offline, manufacturing capacity eliminated, economic activity suspended. We've essentially caused the technological equivalent of an ice age, Amy observed. Civilization hasn't been destroyed, but it's been forced back to pre-industrial levels overnight. Jake studied the display, feeling the weight of what humanity had accomplished. They had not conquered the galaxy through military force. They had simply reminded everyone who actually kept things running. Any word from the Dominion fleet. They're trying to send messages, but their communication systems are barely functional. From what we can intercept, they seem to be requesting negotiations. As if summoned by their conversation, a weak transmission came through from the Dominion flagship. Kethvar's image appeared on the screen, but the picture was filled with static, and the audio was distorted. "Human leaders," the alien admiral said, his voice tight with what might have been desperation. "We request immediate negotiations to resolve this situation. Our civilizations are experiencing critical system failures that threaten millions of lives." President Sullivan looked at Jake and Amy before responding. "Admiral Kethvar, we tried to resolve this situation through peaceful negotiation. You chose to threaten our world with orbital bombardment. We did not understand the true situation," Kethvar admitted. "We believed humans were a primitive species that could be easily conquered. We now realize that our assessment was incorrect." "What you realize," the president said firmly, "is that your entire civilization depends on human expertise to function. We have been maintaining your technology, improving your systems, and keeping your society running for 2 centuries. You repaid our service by threatening to enslave us." The transmission flickered as more systems failed on the Dominion ship. "What do you want from us?" "What we've always wanted, to be left alone to live our lives in peace. Withdraw your forces from Earth space. Abandon all plans to conquer or control human worlds, and we can begin discussing the restoration of essential services. And if we agree to these terms," Amy stepped forward to answer, "then we'll begin the long process of restoring galactic civilization. But it will be a different galaxy than the one you remember. Humanity will no longer work in the shadows as silent servants. We will be recognized as equal partners in galactic affairs." The transmission ended as more of the Dominion's communication systems failed. Around Earth, the alien fleet continued to drift helplessly, their crews finally beginning to understand that they were completely dependent on the very people they had come to conquer. The galaxy had gone dark, and only humanity held the keys to turn the lights back on. 3 days after the galaxy went dark, Admiral Kethvar found himself doing something he had never done before in his military career, begging for help from a species he had come to conquer. The Dominion flagship was barely functioning. Life support was operating at minimum levels, food replicators had stopped working, and the crew was rationing water. Similar reports were coming in from across the galaxy as alien civilizations discovered what life was like without human engineers keeping their technology running. Jake Morrison stood in the main conference room of Luna Station, looking out at the Dominion fleet. The alien ships looked different now, less threatening and more like floating scrap metal. Some were completely dark, their crews having abandoned them for ships that still had basic life support. "Sir, Admiral Kethvar is requesting permission to come aboard for face-to-face negotiations," reported Lieutenant Parker. "Grant permission," Jake said. "Have Ambassador Cole meet him in Conference Room 7. Peter Cole was Earth's most experienced diplomat a man who had spent his career preparing for first contact with alien civilizations. He had never imagined that first contact would involve aliens, who were completely dependent on human mercy for their survival. When Kethvar arrived on Luna Station, he looked very different from the commanding figure who had delivered ultimatums 3 days earlier. His uniform was wrinkled, his 4 eyes were dim with exhaustion, and he moved like someone carrying an enormous burden. Ambassador Cole Kethvar said as he entered the conference room, "I come to request immediate assistance for my fleet and our civilian populations." Peter gestured for the alien admiral to sit. "What kind of assistance are you looking for?" "Our ships are dying," Kethvar said bluntly. "Life support systems are failing, navigation is completely offline, and our crews are running out of food and water. We need your engineers to restore basic functionality so we can return home." "That's an interesting request, considering that 3 days ago you were threatening to destroy our cities." Kethvar's alien features showed what might have been shame. 3 days ago, I believed the Dominion was the most powerful force in the galaxy. I now understand that power and dependency are not the same thing. Dr. Amy Foster entered the room, carrying a datapad filled with reports from human engineers across the galaxy. "Admiral Kethvar, before we discuss restoring your systems, perhaps you should understand the full scope of what's happening." She activated a holographic display, showing the current state of galactic civilization. The image was shocking. Nearly every major system was either offline or operating at critically reduced levels. "The Corvain Empire has lost all interstellar communication," Amy reported. "Their government can't contact their outer colonies, and their economic system has completely collapsed. The Dacian Republic is experiencing planet-wide power failures. Their cities are going dark, their transportation networks have stopped functioning, and their food distribution systems are failing. The Meridian Confederation, the first alien species to make contact with humans, is facing the complete breakdown of their industrial capacity. They can't manufacture new equipment, repair existing systems, or maintain their space-based infrastructure." Kethvar studied the display with growing horror. "How many people are affected?" "Approximately 40 billion? Sentient beings across 200 worlds and 3,000 space stations," Amy said matter-of-factly. "The economic losses are incalculable. The technological setback will take decades to recover from, assuming recovery is even possible without human assistance. This is a humanitarian disaster of galactic proportions." Peter leaned forward. "It's also completely reversible. Every system that has failed can be restored. Every network that has gone dark can be reactivated. Every critical service that has stopped working can be brought back online. What do you want in exchange?" Before Peter could answer, President Sullivan entered the room. She had come to Luna Station specifically for these negotiations, understanding that what happened in the next few hours would determine the future of galactic civilization. "What we want, Admiral, is very simple," the President said as she took her seat at the conference table. "We want to be treated as equals rather than servants." She activated another holographic display, this one showing a proposed treaty that had been drafted by Earth's legal team. "This is the Terran Accords. It establishes a new framework for human-alien relations based on mutual respect and shared responsibility." Kethvar studied the document. "What are the main provisions?" "First, Earth and all human colonies are recognized as sovereign territories. No alien government or organization has the right to interfere with human self-governance. Second, humans working throughout the galaxy are recognized as skilled professionals deserving fair compensation and safe working conditions. The era of treating human engineers as expendable laborers is over. Third, humanity becomes a full member of the galactic community, with voting rights in all major decisions that affect interstellar civilization." Kethvar was quiet for a long moment, reading through the detailed provisions of the treaty, and, in exchange for agreeing to these terms, Human engineers will return to their posts and begin restoring essential services, President Sullivan said. But this time, they'll be working as partners rather than servants. Amy added, "We'll also share some of the technological improvements we've developed over the past 2 centuries. Your ships will be more efficient, your computers will be more reliable, and your infrastructure will be more robust. You would share advanced technology with us after we threatened your world. We've been sharing advanced technology with you for 200 years, Amy pointed out. You just didn't realize it. Every improvement your maintenance staff made to your systems was actually a human innovation. Your ships are already running on technology that's more advanced than what your own scientists developed." Captain Ryan Bell entered the room carrying a technical demonstration device. "Admiral, would you like to see an example of what we mean?" Keth nodded, and Ryan activated the device. It projected a detailed schematic of the Dominion flagship's main engine system. "This is your ship's hyperspace drive, as it was originally designed by Dominion engineers," Ryan explained. "And this is the same drive after 2 years of human maintenance." The comparison was startling. The modified version was 30% more efficient, had built-in safety systems that didn't exist in the original design, and included several technological innovations that were completely beyond current Dominion capabilities. "You've been flying a ship that's more advanced than anything your civilization could build," Ryan said. "The same is true for every piece of equipment that humans have maintained throughout the galaxy." Kethvar stared at the schematics, finally understanding the true extent of humanity's technological contributions. "Why didn't you tell us what you were doing? Would you have believed us?" President Sullivan asked. "Your species contacted Earth 2 centuries ago and immediately decided we were primitives, suitable only for manual labor. If we had claimed to be your technological equals, you would have laughed at us. Instead, we chose to prove our worth through our work. We took the jobs you didn't want and did them better than you thought possible. We improved your technology, fixed your problems, and kept your civilization running smoothly. And in return, you decided to enslave us." Alien features showed genuine regret. "We made a catastrophic error in judgment. The Dominion Council will need to review all of our assumptions about human capabilities and intentions." "The Dominion Council will need to do more than review," President Sullivan said firmly. "They'll need to sign this treaty and honor its provisions. The alternative is permanent technological collapse." To demonstrate the point, Amy sent a signal to Dan Murphy in his underground bunker. Within seconds, the lights in the conference room flickered as power systems throughout Luna Station briefly shut down and then restored themselves. "That was a small demonstration," Amy explained. "We can selectively control any system that humans have ever maintained. Your ships, your stations, your planetary infrastructure, all of it responds to our commands." "You've made your point," Kethvar said. "What do you need from me to begin negotiations?" "Contact your government and explain the situation," President Sullivan said. "Make it clear that the only path forward is through the Terran Accords. The age of galactic colonialism is over." Over the next 6 hours, Kethvar managed to establish communication with Dominion Command using emergency protocols that were still functioning. The conversation was difficult, with many Dominion leaders initially refusing to believe that their technological superiority had been an illusion. But as reports continued to arrive from across their territory, describing the complete breakdown of essential services, the reality became undeniable. The Dominion, like every other major power in the galaxy, was completely dependent on human expertise. The formal signing ceremony took place 12 hours later in the main assembly hall of Luna Station. Representatives from major alien governments appeared via holographic projection. Their images transmitted through the few communication systems that humans had temporarily restored for this purpose. Admiral Morrison, now bearing the title of Galactic Infrastructure Coordinator, watched as President Sullivan signed the Terran Accords on behalf of humanity. One by one, alien leaders added their agreement to the treaty, formally recognizing Earth as an equal partner in galactic civilization. The restoration of essential services will begin immediately, President Sullivan announced after the signing. Human engineers throughout the galaxy are returning to their posts, but they return as respected professionals rather than invisible servants. As if to demonstrate the point, lights began coming back on throughout the Dominion fleet. Life support systems resumed normal operation. Communication networks reactivated, and navigation computers began displaying accurate star charts. But the restoration was selective and controlled. Critical systems were brought back online, but the aliens quickly realized that their technology now included obvious human modifications. Every computer displayed a small Earth symbol. Every system included credits to human engineers, and every piece of equipment operated more efficiently than it ever had before. The message was clear. Galactic civilization could function again, but it would be impossible to ignore humanity's contributions. 3 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terra Station, humanity's first official embassy to galactic civilization. Through the viewport, he could see ships from dozens of alien species arriving for the inaugural session of the reformed Galactic Council. Dr. Amy Foster joined him at the viewport, carrying a status report on the restoration progress. "How are we doing?" Jake asked. "Better than expected. 97% of critical systems are back online, and we've completed infrastructure upgrades on 43 major worlds. The aliens are discovering that their equipment works better than ever." "Any resistance to the new arrangements?" "Less than we feared. Most alien governments are so grateful to have their civilizations functioning again that they're eager to maintain good relations with Earth. The few holdouts are learning that isolation from human technical support means technological stagnation." Jake watched as a sleek alien ship docked with the station, its hull bearing the symbols of both its homeworld and the Terran Engineering Corps. "What's our long-term strategy?" "The same strategy we've always used, be indispensable through competence, but now we're doing it openly, as partners rather than servants." Amy pointed to another section of the report. "We're also training alien engineers in human techniques. Eventually, they'll be able to maintain some of their own systems, but it will take generations for them to reach our level of expertise, and they're okay with this arrangement. They don't have much choice. We've demonstrated that galactic civilization depends on human engineers. They can either work with us as equals, or watch their technology slowly decay." As Jake and Amy talked, Captain Ryan Bell was conducting a tour of Terra Station's engineering. Section 4, a group of alien technical specialists. These were the first aliens to be admitted to the Human Engineering Training Program, a select group chosen for their ability to work cooperatively with human methods. "The key to maintaining quantum communication systems," Ryan explained to his audience, "is understanding that the technology is not just about raw computational power. It requires intuitive problem-solving and creative adaptation." One of the alien students, a young Meridian engineer named Vashti, raised a slender hand. "Human techniques seem to emphasize improvisation over strict procedural adherence. Is this intentional?" "Absolutely," Ryan said with a smile. "Aliens tend to design systems that work perfectly under ideal conditions. Humans design systems that continue working when everything goes wrong. That's why our improvements are so effective." The training program was one of many changes resulting from the Terran Accords. Human knowledge was being shared openly, but the learning process would take time. In the meantime, human engineers remained essential to galactic civilization. On the main bridge of Terra Station, Ambassador Peter Cole was meeting with a delegation from the former Dominion worlds. These aliens had once been humanity's would-be conquerors. Now, they were among Earth's most cooperative partners. "Ambassador Cole," said the delegation leader, Our worlds would like to request additional human engineering support for our agricultural systems. The improvements your people have made to our food production networks have increased yields by 60%. I'll discuss it with our engineering corps, Peter replied. But understand that human engineers are no longer unlimited in their availability. We have our own projects and priorities now. Of course, we're prepared to offer substantial compensation and guarantee excellent working conditions. It was a conversation that would have been unimaginable 6 months earlier. Aliens who had once viewed humans as expendable laborers were now competing to hire human expertise. As the day ended, Jake returned to his quarters and activated his personal communication system. On the screen appeared the face of Nicole Adams, still managing communications from the Galactic Hub, but now with the official title of Director of Interstellar Communications. "How's the view from Terra Station?" Nicole asked. "Educational," Jake replied. "I'm watching alien civilizations learn to treat humans as equals. It's quite a change from when they thought we were primitives." "The change goes deeper than politics," Nicole observed. "We've fundamentally altered how galactic civilization operates. Technology is no longer taken for granted. Every alien world now understands that their standard of living depends on maintaining good relationships with human engineers. Any regrets about how we handled the situation?" Nicole considered the question carefully. "We could have been more diplomatic initially, but they forced our hand. When someone threatens to destroy your home world, subtlety becomes less important than survival. And now we have something we've never had before: security through indispensability. Earth is safe not because we have the strongest military, but because galactic civilization literally cannot function without us." Jake nodded, looking out at the stars through his viewport. Somewhere out there, human engineers were working on thousands of worlds and stations, maintaining the technology that kept billions of aliens alive and comfortable. But now they worked as respected professionals, rather than invisible servants. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never threaten the people who keep your lights on. And humanity had learned something equally important: sometimes the best defense is not building bigger weapons, but becoming too valuable to attack. As Dr. Amy Forster had noted in her final report on the crisis, "They tried to control us through force. They never realized we already controlled them through competence. The age of human servitude was over. The age of human partnership had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same."